Welcome to Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned leaders in the quick service restaurant industry. Each week, we serve up actionable insights and proven strategies to help you lead smarter, build stronger teams, and elevate operations. Whether you're taking your first steps into leadership or refining your expertise, we're here to fuel your growth and spark big ideas. Let's dig in.
Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas. We're back in action with a bonus episode.
Bonus episode.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Popular demand. We've had so much. Actually, I just got off a call with somebody who's like, I have to wait a whole week for one, and not this week, my friend.
Not this week.
Not this week. We got a bonus episode for you.
Heck yeah.
And we have a huge meeting coming up, right? We're going to bring all of our general managers, all of our assistants. You know, we haven't done this in a long time.
It's in what, like 5 days, give or take?
Right. So thanks to the Beloit Classic Theater, right? They're hosting us, and they got about 100 seats for all of our people. And what was unfortunate is we're not able to even bring everybody that I really wanted to. So for those missing out, I apologize. We'll get a bigger venue maybe the next time, or even rent 2 theater rooms, I guess, next time. But so today we really wanted to just kind of talk about like meetings and prepping for meetings. Most people don't like meetings, and sometimes we have meetings just to have meetings. So when you're told to have one, honestly, like our approach is how impactful can we be with them, and how do we have better agendas, and how do we make sure that the participants are going because they want to go, not
because they have to.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you say meetings, in our industry, I feel like there's different levels, or we talk about a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. So what are some different types of meetings?
There is. I mean, there's team building. There's what do you want to call it? There's planning. There's problem solving. There's meetings just to have meetings. To have a meeting. In the corporate world, it sometimes feel like that, right? Like we're having meetings just to have a meeting, to plan for the meeting. Sometimes there's meetings just to have meetings, but as we're looking at some of the ones that I've been a part of, a lot of them kind of get intertwined, right? Sometimes we want participation. Sometimes we want to just be more formal and tell everybody what it is.
Informative or whatever.
Sometimes we want to show people what we're doing, so like those development ones. And I know the one that we're currently preparing for is really just informational. We want it to be fun. We want it to be exciting. We want to really just cast the vision of what we're trying to accomplish in 2025. And yes, I know we're already a couple months into it, but with that being said, this meeting is really being designed to uplift, motivate, and cast a vision.
Well, and essentially it's the kickoff of our assistants as well. Getting them involved directly into what we're doing.
It is. It's our first time where we're really going to all be together, so we can align and treat this more like that business rather than just putting the food in the bag type stuff.
Yeah.
So the purpose of our meeting here is to help support those conversations that our general managers are already having with our assistants, but really having and ensuring that everyone's hearing that same message. And I think there's a lot to be said when it comes to people being able to hear that same message, that boardroom to crew room type of thing.
I was just going to say that, boardroom to crew room, making sure that everybody understands what the actual vision is, what the company's working on, the culture of the company, because that can get lost. But back to meetings, the agenda. That's pretty important. And I think agendas need to have a purpose. There needs to be a purpose of the meeting. Like Eric pointed out, there's different types of meetings, but if I'm attending one and I don't know the purpose, I might be checked out. I might not come to that meeting or whatever, So having a purpose for your meeting is important, as well as having a well thought out agenda and having those time slots, each section, making sure that they're covered and that you're giving each one its appropriate time and sticking to that, because conversations, just as well as can get off track, and it's easy to stray away from it, but use that as your guide for the meeting. And as well, just assign ownership to certain sections. So we were talking about assistants and managers related to our organization. Have them take ownership of whatever section you want them to, involve them in that situation, so it doesn't feel as like informative, or if you're talking about results, it doesn't become that like complain fest where everybody's just, Bob was slow last week and this, that, or the other,
It turns into that sometimes.
It can.
And I've hosted plenty of bad meetings, right? Like you've been to some of mine, and some are bad. Like regardless of how much, but like being prepared for those meetings can only enhance and help you prepare. Plus, after you've prepared the agenda, really sharing that with the team. I know sometimes we have results-based conversations. We want to improve.
Right.
But our approach behind the meeting may not be exactly, or may not go how we exactly want it to go. So we have to take meetings seriously because we don't want to waste time either.
Right.
So having an agenda, having a preset agenda with time to really analyze that, doing this a week or two ahead of time, not that morning. I'm going to tell you, I've done plenty of meetings where it's the morning of, and you're like, okay, what am I going to talk about? And then you have people at the meeting who don't even know, right? And you expect them to participate. So I think, as you talked about the agenda, Riley, once you finalize that agenda, get that to the team that's going to be attending the meeting. And I'm going to tell you that if you can get it to them at least, say, 2 days ahead of time where they can think about that, that gives them time to really think about what topics you want to discuss so they can come prepared to have an actual discussion with you on those things. Too often, we run into a meeting and we don't know and we're surprised and we weren't prepared. And
either then we're just going off the cuff and not really speaking truth to whatever is on there. I don't want to say blowing smoke, but essentially blowing smoke.
You give answers to give answers sometimes.
Exactly.
Or you're pressured to give an answer, and it might not even be what you wanted to really say or talk about. And I think an agenda-based conversation leads to a lot of, and we can hit on the facilitator part of this, but as a facilitator, when you have people who know the agenda, you can ask more open-ended questions to where they'll participate rather than it being more point-blank type, hey, we want answers.
Yeah. And open-ended questions are, tell me more. Like, why do you feel that way? Or why do you think this didn't work? Why didn't we hit this metric? And it's more open-ended instead of yes and no answers. Like, did we hit our targets last week? No. Okay. That's not a very impactful meeting.
Yeah, and I think at the restaurant industry, we already know what we're doing or not doing. At least we as general managers do, right? Maybe as leaders of that restaurant do. But now it's your time to talk to your team about that and what you're looking to accomplish. What's done is done, right?
Yeah, lag measures for sure.
Don't allow the team or the meeting to get so stuck on what's wrong or what happened. Like, let's focus on what we can do to really be positive. And that's where the open-ended questions come in because they might have solutions. And we have to be very cautious on how we shut down or how we approach those answers that they might give. Because in a meeting, you never know what somebody's going to ultimately say. So if they're going a different direction, how do you maybe anticipate these different directions and get people to stay on track as you facilitate this conversation? But a lot of the times we can be so quick to shut somebody down that they'll just stop participating in general.
Forever. They and that also can go into the trust that your employees have with you, the rapport, the motive, like all those things are tied into that to shutting them down. I mean, if we shut them down, what's to say they're ever going to speak up again? And they still probably have really good ideas.
Yeah, I liked what you said. Like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a simple statement, and I probably overuse it a little bit. But when I don't quite understand somebody and I need them to elaborate, or maybe I just because it's maybe not clicking for me yet. And I used to just shut that down, right? Like, well, I don't understand that. That's probably wrong.
So
now well, tell me more. Tell me why you feel that way. Tell me how you see that being successful for us in a month or 3 months, right? Instead of, well, we tried that in the past. It didn't work, so we're not going to.
Right.
Well, but what if it does? What if it does work this time, right? So tell me more. Tell me how you see that being, right? And those open-ended questions will really allow it. But just don't shut people down.
Yeah, and be open to those.
Yeah.
Feedback is super important, and being able to have that open conversation or those open format meetings where you can solicit that information from your leaders in your restaurant. That's a great opportunity to do it. So be open to asking questions, getting information from your team, and anticipate those questions that they might have. So you can also again continue to build trust and respect with them by having the answers.
And before we maybe move on to the next topic, you talked about getting your assistants and your managers involved.
Yeah.
Like, why would we want to do that? Tell me more. Tell me more. about that concept.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Oh, now we're in the Grease Lightning. Yeah, I like it. I like it. But tell me a little bit more about how that maybe helps your meetings.
It can help your meetings because we just said that there's different perspectives, in the business, and it also just helps them feel like they're part of the business and gives them that opportunity to share their ideas or ownership, rather, of those things. Yep. If you have an assistant who's in charge of, say, speed, have them run the speed section. Have them talk about speed with the shift managers or with the team that's present. And have them be the ones who kind of solicit that feedback from the other managers and run that if they own it, right? You don't want to give them false ownership, like, here, you run it, but secretly I'm in charge. You don't want to do that because that's going to just undermine the trust that you're trying to build. And
that's what I was going to hit on, right? Because you talked about giving them the ownership, but when I first started really giving people ownership, I would give it to them, but then I would overshadow them. Mm-hmm. So as leaders, how do we actually allow them to do those things without overshadowing? Because let's say that you are talking about speed, right? All of a sudden you're talking about this, this, and this. I'm like, oh, but Riley didn't mention this, so now I'm going to have to, right? So how do we just refrain ourselves a little bit from that? How do we maybe help them be as comfortable with the things that they necessarily want to hit on, but the things that maybe we want to hit on too?
Well, you could talk about it with them. They're your assistant. You work with them all the time. Just be like, hey, I want you to run the speed section, but here are a couple things that I want you to hit on. Otherwise, it's your section.
Yeah, I've never practiced meetings with my assistants before, and I think that as we've kind of done this, as we've been first of all, we have to have consistent meetings, right? Like the fact that people maybe come to you with problems, issues, or your meeting does turn into a session of just complaining about. I think you mentioned Bob, right? Like if it's turned into that, you're probably not talking to your team often enough about the things that truly matter. So I would agree with you. If you're going to trust them to do these things, then have some pre-meetings, right? Have them practice in the
meetings to have meetings.
Yeah, meetings to have meetings. But at that point, then you're not going to be surprised, and they won't feel like you're stepping on their toes.
And it leads to an impactful meeting.
Yeah, because that's what we're trying to walk away with, right? Is a meeting with a purpose. And the more successful meetings you have, the more people are going to want to come to them. So don't underestimate the power of preparation when it comes to this. Don't underestimate yourself when it comes to how to facilitate a meeting. Read more about it, learn more about it. They can actually be enjoyable.
They can, and they can be fun too. Like I'm so excited. In a couple of days we're going to have this meeting because I know we host really fun and engaging meetings, and having our assistants a part of it is going to make it that much better. But a part of that too is it's your meeting. You can have an agenda line item that's a team building exercise, or those development things that you talked about. Hey team, today we're going to learn. We're going to revisit the procedures on XYZ. We're going to learn this new process together. And now all of a sudden, first of all, now accountability wise that everybody knows how to do it. That's good as a leader, as a boss. But then you also get to, share that knowledge with the team.
I want to get into how to engage people in the meeting, like if you're the actual attendee of a meeting. But before we do, just one last thing I would share on the agenda, and if there's anything else, but just don't have too many bullet points. Like don't try to cram too many things into your agenda. I've been at plenty of meetings. Like I'd rather almost run short on time than try to pack in the last, you've been there, right? There's 5 more things that we can cover and we have 5 minutes. So boom, 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 right?
Nobody's listening at that point.
Nobody's listening, right? But so how do we go into a meeting wanting to be engaged? Is there some things that you have that you would reference as far as how to actively participate?
I'm coming to a meeting.
Yeah.
I need to read the agenda.
Yep. Yeah, right.
So if I
open the agenda.
Open the agenda that was sent to me, and then I just need to come prepared, to engage in that meeting. There's a company that I saw that if they have meetings, with their managers, their C-level, whatever, if they don't find the meeting beneficial, they can just get up and leave.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want people to stay. So make it engaging, right? But as an attendee, come to participate, come to contribute.
Yep.
With that, though, you have to also have a growth mindset, because if you're not looking there to grow, then just don't go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You can't, if you're going to a meeting just to go, that's a complete waste of your time, the company's time, the person who put the meeting together's time, because you're wasting it because you're just going to go. So I'd say growth mindset, and then also just meeting etiquette. Don't be on your phone, texting. There's distractions everywhere, especially in a fast-paced industry such as ours. But how do we find that time to disconnect and pay attention to what's actually happening?
Mm-hmm.
Take notes. Several times I've gone to meetings, and I like to think I have a decent memory, but several times today even I've been like, Eric, it was on the tip of my tongue and then it's gone. I just forget. So taking notes to come back to later to either follow up on those action items or those learnings from that meeting. Yeah. And then don't speak when others are speaking. I mean, it's elementary, but too many times, especially if you get the passion going in the meeting, people are wanting to share or whatever. It can be distracting to others. So don't speak over other people.
Yeah. I find myself also as an attendee more engaged when I sit towards the front. It's like going to church, right? You don't want to necessarily go sit in the front row.
Yeah.
Right? Take the time to be engaged. Take the time to stay off your phone. Let people know that you're in a meeting, or set those silent features, or that, hey, I am in a meeting, right? In the restaurant industry, it can be hard because there are a lot of distractions, right? Because you're in a working restaurant, customers are coming in, there might be issues, an employee comes to you, the phone rang. Like, let them know what's urgent and when you really need to pull out of that meeting, like especially at the restaurants.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be very honest about that, and we got to limit those distractions as much as possible. So those are all great points, and I think ultimately going there to want to grow is huge, right? Because there are meetings, and a lot of them, and they can be a little boring. I've been to plenty, or I've had people come like, hey, Eric, can I just skip this one? Are they skipping it because they didn't find value, or are they skipping it because they didn't challenge themselves to find value?
Well, and total side note, I just thought of, you have to place the value and place that priority on the meetings, but you have to follow through with it.
Yep.
You can't say, Eric, I need you at this meeting, and then you have a crappy meeting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So you have, as the leader, you place the importance level of that meeting with your team. Yep. So follow through and do it.
Yep. Riley, I think this has been a really good conversation around just having meetings, right?
Yeah.
Setting the agendas, getting those agendas into the hands of the people who are participating, making sure that people are engaged, and you're giving opportunities to people to facilitate and be a part of your meeting as well, to open that engagement.
And then you just learn and grow and empower yourselves together.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Excited for everyone. Keep the consistency of your meetings. They might be slow going at first, but there is value. There's value to consistency, whether it's every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, once a month, right? Whatever you find appropriate for your team. But communication is everything. You got to get that message to your team, and they have to be on the same page. So, thank you for taking the time to listen. We appreciate it.
Bonus episode.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right. See ya.
Thanks for joining us on Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas. We hope today's episode inspired fresh ideas for your leadership journey. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and keep learning with us as we continue to explore leadership in the QSR world. Until next time, take care and lead well.